Hi, my name is Laura. Welcome to the Laura Cre8s knitting podcast. This is my first episode ever, so I thought I would start by introducing myself. My name is Laura. I am 27 years old and I live in Copenhagen, Denmark, but I'm originally from Australia. So my accent is a little bit of a mix of everything because I speak mostly Danish in my everyday life. Here in Denmark, I have been knitting for many years, have learnt on and off as a child from my mum, but really started knitting a lot more in the last maybe 3 or 4 years, particularly over COVID. I think, like most people, it really was a way to kind of use some of the excess energy that I had. My first love was sewing. You can see my sewing machine in the background, so I might share some of my sewing projects here as well. I have been a long time follower of many podcasters and have thought about doing this for a long time, but lately I've been thinking about it even more because I feel like I could talk about knitting all day long and never stop, and so I have a feeling that a lot of my friends who aren't knitters are starting to get a bit tired of me having to show them all the photos and the ideas for the new projects that I have in my head. I feel like I think about knitting 95% of the time. So yeah, this is a space where I can share that. I'm super excited to get to know you guys, so please leave me a comment down below, let me know where you're from and what you're knitting on today. I just love watching podcasts and knitting and using my time on a really amazing hobby that I've just come to fall truly in love with. Great, I'm going to do a bit of the kind of general usual podcast format, and I'm going to start with what I'm wearing today. This is the Pauline sweater by Colbury. It is knit in Filcolana Pernilla in the navy shade, held with Walløe Mohair, also in a navy shade, and then the contrast, the yellow contrast, is Filcolana Peruvian Highland wool in the colour Sunflower. I really love this fabric that it creates. The contrast colour is actually knit in pearl bumps, so it's got this really beautiful texture to it, and this really amazing V-neck, V detail is, I just am so in love with it, and it continues under the arms as well, and super smart, really great way of doing it. I won't give away too much about the pattern, but it's basically a way of doing a raglan where you twist or change the position of the raglan increases to make this amazing pattern. I was playing extreme yarn chicken with this project. I'm a bit of a cowboy. I don't gauge swatch ever, mostly because I knit just for joy, and I know that seems kind of crazy, but I don't do a lot of like product knitting where I really want a product. Most of my projects are process knits, and so swatching isn't part of the process that I enjoy. So this has got like a high neck with this like amazing ribbing detail, but yeah, as I was playing yarn chicken, I stopped the straps like quite far up, still towards quite high up the sleeve, and did a very long ribbed cuff because I knew that I was going to have to buy more of the Pernilla color way anyway, so yeah, that's what I did with this one. I purchased the wool at a local yarn shop called Sommerfugl, which means butterfly in English, and they have a great range and such a great helpful bunch of people. This yarn was purchased with a gift card that I got from my host mother when I originally lived here. I was on exchange, and she has been a big supporter, also taught me to knit European style and really got me into knitting when I was on exchange back then. and she bought me a gift card for summer for Christmas 2 years ago, I think, and that's what I used to buy this. I'll just stand up so you can see the bottom, also just a ribbed detail, cropped to the kind of perfect length. Yeah, I've had some bad experience with jumpers that are too cropped, because I don't really wear anything cropped. And yeah, it's been a big learning curve to make sure that all my jumpers are a length that I would like to knit, so like to wear. Obviously you want to knit faster sometimes, and so you want them to be shorter, but yeah, this is the perfect length for me. It kind of, the ribbing cinches it in a bit. I really love that about this ribbing. It's not twisted, it's just normal rib with a tubular bind off, but it's just really tight and really kind of pulls in the larger kind of bat wingy shape. So that was my first finish object of this year, and I have to, like, short disclaimer, I had a lot of whips at the end of last year, and I had a bit of a whip down, and therefore I only actually knit the sleeves on this, and the body of this was actually knit, I think, February or March last year. So yeah, it was a bit of it was in a basket of shame, and actually then it lived in the basket of shame for another month until I weaved in all the ends inside. I originally started, when I was doing the stripes, by cutting the wool at every stripe, because it was the first time I'd done kind of a contrasting stripe like this, until I realized that I could just like catch it on the inside, and maybe I can show you that on this. So I originally was cutting at every line, and then I realized, oh, I can just pass my floats down like this. I did some lazy knitting in of the ends, which I'm really hoping don't come undone. I just tied them in knots, and that was because I literally thought this project was never going to end, because I couldn't bring myself to weave in the ends, especially on the pearl bumper rows. So if you knit this pattern, I would highly recommend, really highly recommend, passing the contrasting thread down to the next stripe, which I did all down the arms, and that was perfectly fine. And there were only 2 ends I had to weave in the yellow section if I had done that the whole way. So yeah, highly recommend that you do that. My next finished whip was also a part of the whip down. I finished this sock last year. So this is the colour work top of the Ovis sock by the Petite Knitter. And I absolutely love all of her patterns. I think they're stunning. I haven't done much colour work, but that's going to be my first big colour work project, is going to be one of her sweaters. And my beautiful host mum, who gifted me the money for this sweater, is going to show me how to do it, because she does mostly only Fair Isle sweaters. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I really want to knit the Ovis jumper, which has a row of sheep in it. It's absolutely stunning. So this is just the top of just the colour work for the very top of the sock. And then I did my normal sock pattern, which I usually follow the Winwick Mum Sockalong blog post. It's the one that my mum taught me to knit socks from, and I absolutely love it. It makes the perfect sock for me. I always increase by 4 stitches, so instead of the 60 stitches in the pattern, I do 64 stitches, and that's just because I have very flat, wide feet. These need washing, so they are also a bit sloppy at the moment, like they've grown a little bit. This is knit in Ooh, I think I have a ball of it here. Yes. Just in my handy yarn cupboard behind me. This is knit in the Lang Yarns Jawoll Superwash. This is the black colour which I have used on this and on this sock, and I can't remember the brown and the white colourway, but they'll be listed in the description below. I made 2 socks that are corresponding. What's the name? Anyway, corresponding in terms of their colour. The white one's just a bit more gross because it's white, but these have the little brown sheep on them. I made them shorties because I had a really hard time. Obviously this was one of my first colour work pieces, and I had a really hard time getting this bit of the sock like stretchy enough. So I originally knit them as long socks and could not get them up my calf at all. So I had to unfrog the whole thing and start again, and that's when I decided to make shorties instead of long socks, just because I really wanted to practice the colour work. I really wanted to have these as a product because I just think they're adorable. I love all animals, pretty much, and I couldn't get over the fact that there were sheeps, that's very bad English, sheep on my socks. I just thought it was the most amazing thing ever. So really looking forward to working on the Ovis sweater at some point in the future, but that will probably be a later in the year, much later in the year project. So those are my Ovis socks without all the colour work. My next finished object, just finished blocking. This also lived in the basket of shame for a long time. I knitted the body last year, again just after I finished the body of this one, and then I needed to add the arms, and unfortunately that just took me 9 months to do. So this is the very popular sweater number 18 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. The colour is not coming up very well at all. Let's see if we can get the colour a bit better. This is knit in Gepard yarn, or Gepard yarn, Pura Lana. It is, again, the money to buy this wool was gifted to me by my parents-in-law for Christmas, not last year, but the year before. And that was for the local yarn shop called Pauline. And also one of my favourite yarn shops. I just love going in there and touching wools. I do purchase a lot of my wool online, mostly for cost reasons. I'm also a student, still nearly finished. Nearly not a student anymore, but I'm still a student at the moment, and for me, cost-effective yarn purchasing has been a really big part of what I've had to do. So this is my Gepard yarn, Pura Lana. The colorway didn't have a name, it had a number, so again I'll put that in the description below, and hopefully I will be able to insert some footage of myself wearing this, but I potentially won't. Let's see how we go. So yeah, I absolutely love this. One issue I have had is that I don't usually block things. Again, I'm a bit of a cowboy. I am a process knitter, not a product knitter, and therefore I kind of like just enjoyed the process and then didn't think about blocking. So we like to call these monkey arms. They're so long. They're so long. And that's because I knit the repeat at like 2/3, like knit the repeat it said to knit, and then it said to knit it to 40 centimeters or something in the pattern. And so I knit 2/3 of the normal repeat again. In hindsight, maybe steam blocking would have helped in doing that, but At the same time, I'm not a huge, very oversized jumper fan, so I did size down in this, so the drop shoulder isn't as dropped on me, but yeah, the sleeves are definitely too long. I'm very grateful for the ribbed cuff that will hopefully keep them a bit higher up on my arm. But you live and you learn, and that's part of knitting. I absolutely love this jumper. I love this color. I think it's stunning. I would definitely knit it again, although I'm not sure what kind of place in my wardrobe this might have. I think it's worthwhile saying that I am allergic to the color beige and grey, and I don't knit many neutral colors, mostly because my wardrobe is pretty crazy color wise. I just love color. I live in a very cold, dark place, and I think it's kind of individual, and I just love the fact that I'm often the only one walking around in something extremely bright, and that brings me joy. My winter coat is bright yellow, for context, and I don't really knit anything in a beige color. So is there room for another like textured, brightly colored jumper in my wardrobe? Maybe not. Probably. Anyway, I loved this pattern. I would knit it again. Maybe there is room for a neutral jumper in my wardrobe, to go with maybe some of my more crazy pants, but we'll see. So yes, this is my beautiful hot pink sweater number 18 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. Put that down there. This, so it looks like there's a lot of jumpers. There are not going to be a lot of jumpers in every podcast, I can promise you that, because I'm not that fast of a knitter. But because I just finished the sleeves on those in January, and then I cast on this jumper, and this is my entry for the bougie sweatshirt cowl, which is being run by Young Folk Knitwear. Young Folk Knit. My brain's just gone completely blank. Anyway, it's the bougie sweatshirt knit along. I'm absolutely in love with this jumper. I finished it last Friday, so a week, it's now Saturday, so a week and 1 day ago. And I have literally worn it every day. I can't wear the same thing to work every day because that would just look gross. But I would just like come home from work, take off whatever I was wearing at work and put this on because it's so comfy. It is literally a bougie sweatshirt. So this is the Roll With Me sweater by Knits by April, Knits by Autumn. What is going on with me? This is the Roll With Me sweater by Knits by Autumn. It is just a super, it's just, the pattern is so smart. I just really enjoyed knitting this. It was such a great, like, I just think it was a really great knit. It's a raglan sleeve with just like a basic raglan increase. The ends are not finished, so they have this roll on them, and that's all of the ends. I tuck it in at the middle, so the middle's a bit destroyed, but that's all of the ends, and includes the neckline as well. The neckline is like, on some people, someone's doing some drilling. On some people it's like very high, but the wool that I chose to knit it in, which is something that I will definitely keep in mind for next time, was Du Store Alpaca Sterk, which is a mix of alpaca, wool and polyamide, which I absolutely love. It's super drapey, it's just beautiful to wear, it's so soft. It is already pilling a little bit, so I think it's just because it's such a soft wool, we're probably going to have a bit of shaving to do. I don't know if you can see under the arm. Can you see? Anyway, we'll see. There's a bit of, there's a bit of pilling under the arm already. but I really don't mind. Honestly, this is the most luxurious feeling sweater that I've ever made in my life. But I think if I was to knit it again, I would knit it in something a little bit more structured just to get the more beautiful kind of roll. The pattern does call for a normal bind off to try and get the roll to kind of roll as neatly as possible. But I found that when I did a normal bind off, it was just way too tight. So I tried a few different things, but I ended up doing the technique, the bind off technique, which is knit two and then knit two together through the back loop. And that gave like a really great, like stretchy, rolly collar, sleeve, bottom, everything. I absolutely love this color. Again, I think it's 887, but it will be listed in the description below. I'm so bad with remembering the colors. And being my first podcast, I didn't keep any of the ball bands because I didn't think that I would actually ever do this. So that's something that I will be doing for the future, so I can refer to them while I'm telling you about them. So that's my final finished object at the moment. Then we get into works in progress. My boyfriend and I, we just moved into a new apartment, and I have inherited my own sewing, knitting, creative study space, mostly because I'm working on my thesis, but also because I'm just a creative person. And for all of those out there that are knitters and sewers and whatever it is, painters, crafters of any kind, you just need space. And that's something that has taken my boyfriend a lot of time to understand, but he has been so supportive in letting me have the guest room until we eventually turn it into a guest room, as a place where I can just enjoy myself. So as I was moving, I made sure that I got through a lot of my whips, which was super important for me. I now only have 3 whips. As I was cleaning out, I found some other things that were just kind of hilarious. So I am going to walk you through the 3 active whips that I have right now. The first one is, and this is the one that I found while I was moving, and I just thought it was absolutely hilarious. So I've knit 3 pairs of socks now. Well, I've actually knit 5 socks, not 3 pairs. 3 pairs. This is the lone sock. This is the world's loneliest sock, who has been lonely for a very long time. So this again is based on the Winwick Mum Sockalong. In January of 2022, I managed to go back to Australia to see my family after a long time of not being able to travel because of COVID. So it was super exciting to go home. And my mum and I spent some time, and she taught me how to knit socks. And this was the sock that she taught me to knit while I was in Australia for those few weeks. It is, so the Winwick Mum sock is basically just a very loose pattern. It tells you that you do a rib for however long you want to do the rib, and then you knit the sock as however long you want it, and then it does a heel flap and gusset. The heel flap and gusset construction method, and then a rounded toe. It's super straightforward and really easy to follow, and I've absolutely loved that sock pattern, so I would highly recommend it to newbies. I think I would have been able to figure it out without my mum, but I'm very glad that she was able to teach me like the cast on method, for example, and be with me as I did Kitchener stitch for the first time, which I have since done in many other contexts. So this is knit in this very battered ball of yarn. So it is the Regia Pairfect, and it is designed so that you find the end that has the yellow string, and you start knitting after the yellow string, and you knit the cuff for as long as the first color is, and then you knit until you meet the color of the cuff again, so in this case the blue, and then you knit the heel out of the blue, and then you knit the foot again until you come to the same color as the cuff and the heel, again, the blue, and then you knit as long as you need it and do the toes. So this is like a self-striping yarn, but it's like, it's just so smart. And it was a really great first sock because firstly, there was nothing complicated for it to look quite cool. And secondly, it was also quite engaging because sock knitting is very tedious if you are not passionate about it, if you don't know what you're doing, especially in the start. It was the first time I worked on something so small. So I always cast on, now I'm gonna have to look at this, on 3mm DPNs. I like DPNs, I hate magic loop. So I always cast on 3mm DPNs, and then I knit 2 rounds. And then I switched to my 2.5 needles. So all the stocking knit and the heels and the toes are all knit in 2.5. I just cast on with the 3, and that's just to like give a little bit of extra stretch, and also to just make it a bit easier. It's a bit easier on the eyes, it's a bit easier to get started, it doesn't hurt the hands quite as much. So I would highly recommend that. But this sock has been living lonely since January 2022. And I moved on to knit other socks that were just fun and I wanted to knit, including my over socks. And so I found this and I was like, okay, now's the time to get going on it. So I cast this on just 2 days ago. We literally moved last week. So cast this on 2 days ago. I have done the ribbed cuff and the beginning of the pattern. And I'm always like pulling out more wool than I need to try and see where the color change is coming. But yes, so this is, I would highly recommend this for people that want to learn how to knit socks, because I just think that it's such a smart little thing that helps keep you engaged. The color striping, any self-striping yarn will help keep you engaged. And again, the Winwick Mum Sockalong, it's the place to be. I'll link it below. So that's my first whip. My second whip is for the a Lento cowl. So as of course, another cowl. These are the first 2 cowls that I've ever participated in, the Bougie Sweatshirt and the Let's Lento cowl, but I'm absolutely loving it. This is my first Lento ever. It is knit in 1 strand of brushed alpaca from Drops yarn in the color 11. So this is the color. Yeah, it's like so stunning. I'm loving this pattern. It's like flying. I really feel like it's flying. I think it's also because it's knit on such big needles. I have to say, knitting in 1 strand of the brushed alpaca is not really a beginner friendly thing to do, although the brushed alpaca doesn't split or anything, so I guess that's great. But yeah, it's not the world's easiest fiber to work with, but it does make the most squishy, soft, lightweight jumper. We're soon coming into autumn here. When I say soon, I mean in like 2 months, so it's not soon, but it's soon enough for us. We've just been through the darkest period. There's some like sunlight now, and it's just such a joy when the sun starts coming out and you see everybody walking around the city smiling again after being so dreary and cold and dark. But yes, this is going to be a great kind of transitional season piece, and it's also going to be a really great work jumper for me, I think, to add to my collection. Yeah, there's not that much to say about it. It is a raglan design. It was my first time doing a provisional cast on to then pick up, to then knit the collar flat. I do think because the brushed alpaca is so soft, this collar is like got no structure at all. So I think I am going to have to put an elastic in it. I'm not against that though. I think that will just be fine and easy, but I'm going to finish it first and see how it sits on the body. I yeah, I loved the provisional cast on. It was exciting to try something new. There's not many techniques that I haven't tried now. Great. My camera has a maximum recording time. I didn't know that, but now I do. The first time you podcast, guys, this is what it's like. Yes, so I might need to put elastic in the neckline of this sweater because the brushed alpaca is so soft. Again, I didn't swatch for this. I think it's gonna fit just fine. Like, there's enough like positive ease and fuzz in it. What I do, because I am not a swatch knitter, I am a try-on knitter. So that means that like every time I get to a stage where I'm like, okay, is it gonna be long enough now? I'll actually put it on a cable that I can try it on and try it on. That's kind of how I balance out not being a swatch knitter, is by trying things on as I go. And as I said, I've been burnt by some sweaters that are too short in the past. I might share my journey with one of my sweaters with you guys at some point. It was knit bottom up. It was one of my first sweaters in expensive yarn, the first like proper sweater that I was gonna knit, and it was too short and it lived in a bag of shame for a very long time. So yes, before I ended up cutting it and then knitting more, grafting it back together, it was a huge process. Originally I knit it too long and grafted it back together, and then it was like a too long awkward length, and I had to like pick it apart again, take out length that I had added, graft it back together again. So I got a lot of experience grafting, you could say. Yes, but this is my sweater work in progress. Great. And then this is a long time whip, which has been a bit of one of those like things that you really don't want to work on anymore, but I also have all the yarn to make it and I don't want to not use what I have. So basically this is a self-drafted, was meant to be a shawl for my mum, but I have decided, I know that my mum would still love this, but I have decided that I don't love it, and I don't want to gift something to my mum that I don't love. It was something that I cast on earlier in my kind of knitting journey when I couldn't do lace very well, for example. And now I think if I'm going to make a shawl for my mum, I'd like to do something like beautiful and lacy and something that she can really cherish. This is like just something super cozy. So basically it's a striped shawl. Again, I was learning as I went. So the last, like from here up, I learned how to knit in the ends. So here, down here, I have a lot of ends, which just also makes this project super unappealing for me. So maybe I'll work on knitting some of those ends in before I do anything else so that it feels a little bit more motivating. It is knit in, let's see if I can find one this one stand on. It is knit in Drops Lima, in a variety of different colors. This wool is 65% wool, 35% alpaca. It's quite soft. And knit up, it's like also quite structured, so it's not too, yeah, it's still quite like woolly. It's got a good wool content to it. I've decided I'm going to knit this into a baby blanket. I'm going to keep knitting until this side measures 90 centimeters, which is pretty soon. I think I'm at 80 centimeters or so, and then I'm going to decrease in the same way on the other side, and it'll be a striped baby blanket. I really actually like the colors that when I look at it. Like, it's not because I really don't like it, it's just, yeah, I'm also not a big fan of like just garter stitch to and fro, but I don't mind stocking it in the round. I don't know why we have these like strange likes and dislikes, but I don't like knitting this, but I really want to finish it now that I've gone like so far. It's also like too far to frog it when it's all different balls of yarn, all different colors. I couldn't do that. So I'm going to just keep knitting, and eventually this will be a baby blanket that probably goes in the creepy box of things I have under my bed for the day that I have a child, which is not soon, but yeah, it'll probably live in that box. Great. Next I have, so that's all my whips. I'm trying to keep the whips low because I find that I am quite a monogamous knitter, and so if I have more than one whip, only one of them is actually being worked on at a time, so it's not really, yeah, it's not really effective for me to have more than one whip at a time. I do like having a small whip and a big whip, like a sweater and a sock, or a baby something and a sweater, or whatever it is, because like even though I only have 3 whips at the moment, I haven't knit on the blanket in a really long time. I'm okay with that, totally okay with that, but I would really like that to be something that I yeah, limit in the future, to stop this kind of bag of shame sweaters, because they're so beautiful and we use so much money and time in knitting them. Like, it's such a shame not to have them done just because there's something else to work on that's more exciting or newer cast on. Yeah. So I am going to have a plans section instead of an acquisition section. I do acquire like yarn still. I am not on like a no buy or a no spend on yarn, but I am trying to go through my stash a bit more, and therefore I don't want to make this something that kind of makes me feel like I need to keep buying yarn. So I'm going to be sharing plans at the end of the video, and usually they will be they'll be like split into 2 sections. So this year I really want to knit more gifts, and that's like one thing that I've really decided that I'm going to do, and that's because I have so many sweaters now. Like when I first started, I had no sweaters. I moved from Australia, a hot country, to Denmark, a very cold country, and I just knit sweater after sweater after sweater after sweater, as you can see. And I do love knitting sweaters, so it's not that I'm going to stop knitting sweaters altogether, but there's only so many knitted items that one person can own, and I don't want to have a huge collection of things that never get worn. I do prefer to have like a small, well-used collection of things, which is quite funny because I wear so much colour that often my wardrobe is a bit larger than people that have like a chosen colour scheme in their life. But at the same time, yeah, I really just want a kind of limited number so that I don't have a bundle of sweaters that just never get worn. So I am going to have a gift knits section at the end of the podcast, so I can preface it with who should not watch that section, because I love surprises. Obviously I can't stop anyone from watching that section if they want to watch that section. But so actually the 2 things that I do have to share as future plans that I'll hopefully be casting on within the next month are gifts. So here is your gift warning. If you are my dad, and if you are a soon-to-be mum that I know, you should probably stop watching right now. So for my dad, it is his 60th birthday this year. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that online, but it's his 60th birthday this year, and I really wanted to do something big and exciting for him. For my mum, my sister and I made a world-travelled quilt together, where we both when we bought some fabric and then we sent the pieces to and from to each other, and we pieced a quilt together over distance. And actually we also did it a little bit when we were together in January last year, and all sorts of things. So we've pieced a quilt together for my mum and we got it quilted, and that meant a lot to her. My mum is an amazing quilter. This is actually a blanket that she made me. So that was really special, and I wanted to also do something really special for my dad. My dad is he's just an awesome guy. He's a big friendly giant, but when I say he's a giant, he is a giant. So he's nearly 2 meters tall. He's a big guy. So when I decided that I wanted to knit him a sweater, I was a little petrified. I have to say I was a little petrified because he's so big. It's going to take me forever. So I'm casting on soon with the hopes that I can send it by May. End of May. So that will give me like 3 months of knitting time, and I hope that I will be able to get it done in that time. I'm sure that I will be. I am going to be knitting the Fossheim sweater by Cre8s, which I will try and insert again. Who knows if I can, but it will be in the description below. And I'm going to be knitting it in this beautiful blue color. It's Drops Alaska. A classic wool. It's like a very classic wool. It's quite woolly. It's not scratchy. I don't feel like it's scratchy. Like, it's not irritating my skin at all, but it's not like a soft superwash merino or anything like that. It's definitely wool, and I think he will really appreciate that. So this is going to be the Fossheim sweater by Cre8s. This is the color 15 for those of you who are interested, and I'm actually thinking about swatching for this because I won't be able to try it on my dad, and that's how I kind of negotiate the whole not swatching thing. So I might actually swatch for this project so I can be sure that I'm getting the right size for him, and then I will be definitely measuring the piece as I go, and I think I'll send it to my dad unblocked, and then my mum can block it if it needs blocking, because my mum is also an amazing knitter and can definitely do that. So this is Drops Alaska, which is destined to be a sweater for my dad. And then the next thing is I have a friend who's about to be a mum of a little girl. She has a son who I've been looking after for 2 and a little bit years now, here in Copenhagen, and I love him, I love them. I'm super excited for them, and I know they're also super stoked to be having a new baby. So I have had many plans for this yarn. This is the Drops Merino, oh sorry, kicked the camera, Drops Merino Extra Fine Mix, which is color 0.5. It is a superwash yarn. I love superwash yarn for baby things. I also actually like superwash yarn for me because I'm not a huge fan of having to wash wool. I find it really difficult. I also really dislike the smell of wet wool. Like, it's fine when it's dry, but like the smell of wet wool is kind of gross. But anyway, this is for them. I have a bunch of Pippi and Eve romper patterns. I was originally going to knit the Ingrid sweater by Petite Knit, but I did knit one for their son, and it fits him, but like it won't fit him for very long. So they're basically gonna like inherit one that the baby can wear like within a year or so, I guess. So I was hoping to that they could wear matching sweaters, but I think that I just got the sizing a bit wrong, and that's also something that maybe I should be a swatch person. I just don't think I ever will be, but maybe I should be a swatch person. Anyway, this is going to be one of the rompers by Pippi and Eve. I was thinking that it's probably going to be the lacy romper. I'm just not sure if I want to do the chevron or the clover pattern on it. I've knit that romper like 4 times already. I love it. It's a super quick knit. I think it's a great gift. The only changes I'm going to make is that I don't knit the buttonholes. Instead I put, this time I'm not going to knit the buttonholes, and instead I'm going to put snaps on it, because as someone who's like started looking after, like who looks after small children, I find snaps so much easier than buttons, especially if they're wiggly. And yeah, and I was hoping, because I actually have a lot of this, because I was going to knit like a kind of oversized baby sweater, that I might also be able to knit the basic bonnet, like a basic bonnet pattern, just a garter stitch bonnet, to match. So that's the plans for this wool. Yeah, and without further ado, I think that's the end of my first podcast. Thank you so much if you've come all the way to the end here for being with me today. I really look forward to talking to you again. I'm not going to put myself on like any kind of schedule, but for like when I post the next podcast or anything like that, but I will talk to you soon. I think it will be more based on like how far I get in projects. As I said, I'm not a super fast knitter. It's not like I'm going to have 10 new sweaters every time I talk to you guys, or even one finished object. So yeah, I think it will happen. It will depend on how much like knitting time I've had throughout the month, and throughout the time in between the podcasts. But yes, thank you so much for listening. I'm super excited for this new journey. Please leave me a comment below if there's anything that you liked. If you have questions, just let me know. Thank you so much. Bye.